Greetings and welcome to this edition of
Positronic Hypersonic.
Positronic Hypersonic.
Positronic Hypersonic.
I'm Barry P. Cook, and I'm here to talk to you about the season 2 premiere of Andor. It was a 3-episode premiere because they're doing the episodes in 3-episode blocks this season. And the first episode of the premiere was called 1 Year Later, and interestingly, it takes place 1 year after the end of Andor Season 1, and as it starts at a test facility on the planet Shinar, an Imperial technician seems to work on a TIE variant similar to both the Interrogator and the Avenger variants, but it turns out she's working with Cassian Andor and his group, which we learn when she reports to him after interacting with the TIE, which he's masquerading as the pilot of, apparently so that he can steal it. She's new to the anti-Imperial movement and is unsure of herself, but Cassian gives her a pep talk before actually attempting to steal the TIE, which doesn't go well at first. Instead of being able to take off with it, he can't seem to fly it straight for his life, and keeps slamming it into the ceiling and the floor and the walls, and a bunch of stormtroopers respond, whom he has to take out with the onboard weapons before he decides to shoot his way out of the hangar, and then barely escapes while being pursued by 2 other TIE fighters. On Mina Rao in the Outer Rim, Brix has a nightmare and is comforted by friends. At the Mothma estate on Chandrila, Mon Mothma greets dignitaries as his daughter's wedding nears, and one of her guests, though unexpected, is Luthen, who soon learns from Keela that Cassian can't be reached. Cassian, meanwhile, lands the TIE and is taken into custody by the people there when his contact is missing. In the Maltine Divide, some Imperials, led by Orson Krennic, hold a very highly classified meeting about a new project, and Dedra Meero is there. Apparently, the Empire has its eye on a new energy source derived from a rock on Gorman, with which they hope to solidify Imperial power, and which the mining of could destroy many cities and kill hundreds of thousands of people if they're not relocated. The people holding Cassian, who are apparently other rebels from a different cell, struggle to learn to fly the TIE so they can leave the planet where they were apparently abandoned with no food. Mon's daughter has a tiff with her intended, and Mon has to comfort her. Cassian's captors argue with each other, and it devolves into blaster fire as Cassian makes a run for it. That was the end of the first episode. The second episode was called Sagrana Tira. As it starts, Cassian is still being held by the other rebels, who are now a smaller version of the group he first met, as the group is now at war with itself. Dedra tells Major Partagas she doesn't want the Gorman Project assignment, but he tells her to take the opportunity and make good for herself with it. At the Mothma estate, Luthen continues to be worried that Clea can't reach Cassian. At the grain farm, Bix and her associates are dealing with an Imperial inspection and are worried because not all of them have clearance to be on the planet. And Bix gets asked out by a creepy Imperial lieutenant, but she says she's married, and he backs off when her associate Brasso arrives. The faction of rebels not currently with Cassian try to turn the TIE fighter so they can fire its guns on the other faction. On Coruscant, Cyril, from last season, greets Dedra upon her return home. Mon Mothma and Tay Kolma have a fraught conversation about their joint foundation, from which it seems he's realized she's aiding the rebellion, for which he subtly indicates he'll report her if he's not bought off. Clea returns to the gallery to use her sophisticated comms equipment to try yet again to reach Cassian. The 2 fighting factions at Cassian's location play a deadly version of rock, paper, scissors before they're all attacked by a large creature, and Cassian uses the distraction of all of this to escape in the TIE fighter, and that's where the second episode ended. The third episode was called Harvest, and as it starts, in space, Cassian does some tinkering with the TIE's systems. At the farm, the Imperial inspection gets more dicey, and Bix's friend Brasso is given some doctored documentation to help he, Brix, and another farmer avoid being discovered as undocumented. Just before her daughter's wedding ceremony, Mon tells her daughter she doesn't need to go through with her arranged marriage if it isn't what she wants, which she wasn't pleased to hear, and the ceremony begins. Dedra and Cyril prepare for a guest, and soon, Cyril's mother arrives. Cassian finally reaches Clea to report in, and is disturbed to learn that the farm is under a frequency blockade and flies off in a hurry. Dedra lays down the law and makes a terse deal with Cyril's mother to keep her from being a pain in the ass to them. Mon and Tay have another fraught conversation which leads to a similar one between she and Luthen, in which he seems to indicate that Tay needs to be eliminated. Cassian arrives in orbit above home as the Empire arrives again at the farm, And the creepy Imperial again approaches Bix as Brasso is stopped by a stormtrooper. The creepy Imperial tells Bix he knows she's undocumented and makes an advance on her, so she hits him and they fight. Cassian races towards the farm in the TIE when he sees the Imperial ship in orbit. The creep is badly wounded, stumbles out of Bix's place, falls down, banging his head and dying, and Bix is forced to shoot his escort when he finds out. Tay departs the Mothma estate in a space Uber with a replacement pilot as arranged by Vel Sartha, seemingly indicating that he's probably going to get killed. Cassian attacks the Imperials at the farm in the TIE as his friend Brasso flees on a speeder only to be killed by troopers, at which point Cassian, Bix, and the other farmer leave in the speeder, and that's where the third episode ended. So I was a huge fan of this show last season. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. I know that it sort of divided the fan base because not everybody loved it. People thought it didn't have enough action and that it was too much of a slow burn, but I thought it was fantastic. It was a really, really great spy drama, a really great intrigue show. And the second season is off to a really good start. They're doing a strange thing this season. They're not only releasing 3 episodes at a time, but they've said that the 3 episodes each represent events that take place in a different year than the events of the next 3 episodes will take place. And those 3 episodes will take place in a different year from the year that the next 3 episodes take place in. So it's kind of the case that each 3 episode block is a slice of life from one year in the lives of the characters. So it's kind of going to be weird because these 3 episodes take place over the course of about 2 days. And so by the time you see the next 3 episodes, a year will have passed in between. So in other words, it's not as though the year unfolds over the 3 episodes. The year in between is not going to, we're not going to see that year unless it's like these were 2 days at the end of one year and then the next 3 episodes are going to be 3 days at the beginning of the next year, but then they're still going to have to jump months at least. So it's going to be weird because there's going to be time in between the blocks and we're not going to know what happened. But I thought these 3 episodes were really, really good. I didn't think too much of the sequences where they showed Cassian being held captive by the other rebels who didn't seem to know who he was and, didn't seem to know what was going on in a different cell of the rebellion. So I guess they're trying to show us that to let us know that the rebellion is sort of disjointed and the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing. And I guess at some point that's going to be a point of interest in the overall story. But I didn't care for that part as much as the other parts. I really liked the whole part of the episodes that unfolded around Mon Mothma's daughter's wedding because it was just very intense with the Tay character threatening to out Mon Mothma as being part of the rebellion and her and Luthen having to figure out how to deal with him. And at first they're talking about, okay, well, how much does he want? And, she doesn't know right away. And they kind of talk about, well, we have to figure out how much he wants so we can take care of it. But then by the end of the 3 episodes, Luthen's like, yeah, no, we have to eliminate him. And he goes off, presumably to his death, while Mon Mothma is sort of freaked out by it, but at the same time, kind of either doesn't actually know all that's happening or pretends not to know and is kind of lying to herself so that she doesn't have to know like the dirty side of what's going on. I guess, that makes sense, at least in this one case, because this guy Tay was her good friend and now he's threatened to blackmail her and he has to die. So that was all just very, very tense and heavy. And then at the farm, Bix is under threat of being taken by the Empire in more ways than one. And that whole situation has to be resolved, and it comes to a head when Cassian shows up in the TIE fighter and basically lays waste to the Imperials that were there, which of course is going to raise all kinds of alarms. Not that, stealing a TIE fighter hadn't already done that. So, that whole thing was very consequential. And then there was the aspect of the Empire starting out this new project where they're basically going to strip mine this planet to use its resources for energy and kill a bunch of people unless they relocate them. But then, they showed how they're going to play it off as something else happened to the people and that the Empire wasn't behind it. And it just sort of reminds you of how cruel the Empire is. And I think that's important to show to the audience as the story goes on. Interestingly, Dedra sort of seems to feel like it's too much for her. Like she doesn't want to be part of something that cruel. But in the first season, she was pretty cruel. So I don't know if she's evolved as a person somehow, though I doubt it. And it's interesting that she's kind of with Cyril now. I guess he saved her life, right, at the end of season 1. So now they're kind of together. and she had to deal with his mother, and that was kind of funny because she laid down the law, like, leave us alone, woman, or you'll never hear from him. But yeah, once again, I thought that throughout the 3 episodes, the whole intrigue plot, the intrigue elements were really, really strong and really keep you on the edge of your seat. And really, so did all the business at the farm. Like what's going to happen to Bix and her friends? Is Cassian going to get there in time? What's going to happen? I thought that was very intense and worthwhile. And again, just shows you the pervasiveness of the Empire and the huge sort of stick that they wield against the civilian population of the galaxy. And I think that's all important to see as the story unfolds. But yeah, that's really it. So I'm going to get out of here. I'll be back with another video soon. Until I return, may the force be with you.